Alright, so I'm currently trying to platinum every single type of EA game that there is out there, and if I can't do it before the channel hits 1 million subscribers, then my punishment is I have to platinum Fortnite, one of the longest, hardest, and most grindy games of all time. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, in today's video, I got the platinum trophy on Mass Effect. This is the first game out of the Mass Effect Legendary Trilogy that got remastered a few years back, and boy oh boy is this game a gem. Although the Mass Effect Trilogy list contains a majority share of trophies that are actually missable, the game is still insanely fun, and it's probably up there my most enjoyable games I've ever played in my life, and that's not a joke. Something about the sci-fi, space, and alien universe of Mass Effect just really captivates me. I personally love space, and any sort of movie or show in space has always been a big pull to me, so it's not really a surprise that this game slapped. In total, however, Mass Effect contains only 35 trophies, including the platinum trophy, so it's not really a big list. The guide says it takes about 20 hours to complete, and there's only 3 stages to the platinum in general. So kicking off Mass Effect today, the first stage is to complete the quote-unquote introduction while also paying extreme attention to missable trophies as you go on, because there is, as I have said, a large majority of this game's trophies that are easily missable. But before we dive too far into the pool of missable misery, you have to make your character. And I chose to go with the pre-built John Shepard to keep up with the game's narrative. However, I did alter one thing, and I named him John Pork Shepard to spice up this game immensely. You then begin the game and it opens up with a Star Wars kind of lore expose, showing us what the Mass Effect is, and it's an actual event, that being the discovery of ancient alien technology on Mars, which launched humanity forward hundreds of years in terms of technology and into the outer universe. It then picks up with the character you just made aboard the Normandy, which is the spaceship we use for the entirety of the game, and you don't immediately get thrown into a battle, but instead have to converse with Captain Anderson and Neelis, who are the 2 special characters aboard the ship at the moment, and this is actually where you can miss a trophy already, which I did despite me thinking I was prepared and reading the entirety of the trophy guide. But while you're talking to Captain Anderson, you need to ask him about Protheans, who are the main mysterious extinct alien race of this game, and they get mentioned often throughout it up until the very end of it. And yes, I did reload my character and make a new save slot immediately after realizing I did scuff it up. But once I did engage the Prothean dialogue line, we were set to play out the game for the most part, not having to worry too much about missables at the current moment. The game then has a message play from Eden Prime, which is a planet we were headed to at the moment for a routine check, but the video showed a girl named Ashley getting absolutely abused by aliens, which in turn sent us and Neelis down to engage them in combat because there is not supposed to be any sort of threat on Eden Prime, and the alien race currently invading it is one called Geth. And the Geth are also not even supposed to be alive at all, so that further thickened the confusion for everyone on Eden Prime. And the entire goal for us on this planet was just to eradicate them and ensure that everyone is safe that is still left. You eventually reach Ashley, that girl in the video, and she is still kicking it because back in 2007 when Mass Effect released, it was seen as a crime to kill off a hot girl character. How times have changed. But this is also where you need to get a missable race through dialogue for the trophy archivist gotten from gathering all the info on alien races in the game. And again, it's just like Captain Anderson, needing you to find it through the left tab, investigate, and then on the Geth alien race. And those are basically the only 2 missable things in this game that are absolutely needed. The rest of the game has a ton of missions that could be missable if you go too quickly through the story, and a lot of ally missions and combat trophies as well if you just don't do them. So moving on here, you do more combat against the Geth and then reach an area where they planted a ton of bombs, which had us defuse them because we can't have explosions be going off, obviously. And right after you defuse all of the bombs, though, you encounter a Prothean beacon, which is a pillar of ancient knowledge and power. Naturally, our character John Pork got sucked into it, and you proceed to see visions of death, agony, and some low-key scary things before it just explodes right in our faces. John Pork is also not doing too hot, but he's fine, I promise. Oh my god! And after that, the first story trophy of the game then pops. There's then a cutscene showing Saren and the Matriarch, who are the 2 main villains of the majority of the game. Saren, by the way, also killed Neelis back in Eden Prime. I forgot to mention that because it happened so fast, but he is super evil and literally the villain we toy with all game long. The story then moves to the Citadel, which is the pinnacle of the universe in this game's story. It is where everything is ran through, including the Galactic Council, who basically controls what planets have and systems have. They are essentially the rulers of society in the game, but they really got upset with us because of what happened on Eden Prime. You know, the whole beacon blowing up thing and Neelis dying. It isn't a great look. We also had to go tell them what happened with Saren at a hearing, and they refused to believe it because he is super powerful, and he has also been a Spectre for a very long time. A Spectre is also a very high title in the council ranks, and it has a lot of notoriety, so for a Spectre to turn evil will be a first among them. And due to their disbelief in our allegations, we had to go find a ton of evidence from people Saren deals through, eyewitnesses, and just whoever the game basically tells you to go to. There is also another trophy in this game that is very missable called Completionist, which requires you to literally complete, and I quote, the majority of the game. This is talking about missions and assignments being side quests. And I want to give a huge shout out to the guide creator, by the way, because the list of missions in the order they were in was nearly perfect, and it's exactly how I went about playing the game to get this without missing it, which also led me to go do all the exposed Sarah and main story quests in a row right here. And during these you do a lot of fun activities like battling assassins, but you also recruit quite a few new members to the team that are essential for other trophies in the story overall. Eventually, however, once you do work your way through the main story quest, just gathering lore, info, and enough evidence to make Saren seem guilty, you again present it to the council. This time they listen, and they even go so far as to promote good old Jean Pork to the title of Spectre, but only at the release of Captain Anderson as captain of the Normandy, so now he is just simply Anderson. Rest in peace, brother. Jean Pork will treat her well. But that also gives us the trophy from becoming a Spectre in addition to the badass title. There was then one more questline I had to follow related to another character on our team before diving into the assignments, and this one was about Liara Tassoni, a woman who has gone missing and we had to search for her ourselves across some planets. I also didn't know what one to go to at first, so when I landed on this random ass planet, it gave me a trophy from doing exactly that, landing on random planets. Anyways, Liara was found in the Kana system, which is in the top right, and that's not where I landed at all, and she is on the Theron planet within the system. You then ride around the Maka, which is the name of the little rover you get that has a super good weapon system on it to help us not get blown to bits by the inhabitants of planets. The aliens here, by the way, are just more Geth, disgusting creatures. Anyways, Liara is at the mining camp on this planet. More specifically, she's in the mines of the camp, so she's very much underground. And the Geth had her all strapped up and behind this energy wall in a literal prison. To get her out, we essentially just had to eliminate every single Goth down the mines, then their leaders as well for the cherry on top. And finally, you blow up the walls to let her free. You then all have to run out of there as everything begins to crumble down on us, and the cutscene leads right back to everyone in the Normandy, with the trophy search and rescue from saving her. And that would unfortunately, or not if you like doing side content in games, be the last main story quest I would do for a very long time. Because in order to get the completionist trophy, as I mentioned, it requires us to go do a ton of assignments across the Citadel, and then even out onto other planets and different systems. But as I did do those assignments, which varied in lore and characters for nearly every single one, I did manage to bang out quite a few trophies from ally missions. With each ally you can get, you also need to complete 5 missions or assignments with them for a trophy each. And I already had every ally in the game due to me completing the intro and inviting them all aboard, meaning I had a perfect setup. I then, as I said, began to just bang out assignments needed for completion. The first ally trophy I got was called Turian ally from playing with Garrus Vicarian, the Turian squad member we have. And after I did get each trophy for the respectable ally, I would also return back to my ship and then swap them out for someone else as you would expect. I then did the Krogan ally trophy from playing 5 missions with Erdnot Rex, the Krogan squad member who was kind of like Lizzo if she kept up the McDonald's at a steady pace. I would then get the Sentinel ally trophy from again 5 missions played with the Sentinel character being named Caden Alcano, and also he is one of the 2 human allies we have, so W bro. This game is low-key racist, legitimately. The aliens hate humans, and yes, they are judging us on skin color. I then had to play 5 more missions, and I had some fresh people in my squad for the first time, so the trophies began to get a bit more spread out, both due to me needing 5 missions, but also those missions were a bit longer than the previous ones. However, again, like usual, once reaching 5 done, I got another trophy. And this time it was for my soldier ally being that girl, Ashley. Definitely would. That's all I'm gonna say, and we'll leave it at that. The final 2 ally trophies I needed were then from the Korean ally being named Tali Zora, the walking vacuum cleaner. That's what my ex-girlfriend in high school's nickname became, if you get what I'm saying. And finally, the Asari ally, who was actually that girl we just found or saved named Liara, if you forgot. Side note, she gotta be the baddest smurf I've ever seen in my life. About an hour or so after that trophy popped, however, I would finally begin to do main quest again, and the game led us to Noveria, which is a new planet and also where a ton of story is on, obviously. But essentially on Noveria, we were tasked with finding out what is happening on Peak 15, a facility that has gone dark and also where the matriarch is supposedly at. Once you arrive, you find that basically everyone good and normal is gone, and instead it has been overrun with enemies as you would kind of expect a facility that is called Peak 15 to be. But you basically just go through the facility and fix everything that has gone wrong within it. Whether that was reconnecting landlines, contamination cleanup, eradicating the infestation, it doesn't really matter too much because the main goal was to just help the people here to reach the matriarch ahead of them. And while I was doing all of these objectives, I was also beginning to trickle in ability usage for the many ability trophies in this game. These are all gotten by using R1 and cycling to the various abilities that the characters on our team have, with the first trophy I got being from using the shield overload 25 times called Electronic Specialist. And this ability just kind of makes the shield explode on an enemy, so it's low-key super good. But then almost right after that, I reached the matriarch finally, and we had a full-blown battle against her. And remember, she is Soren's kind of partner, so she's super evil and also looks quite scary despite her massive tits blaring into my eyes. Anyways, I actually got another ability trophy from using the sabotage skill 25 times called Sabotage Specialist. That's cool. I would then defeat her because I am playing on casual, and you almost can't die in this difficulty, making it very fun to be honest. But you're then going to find out that the matriarch is also kind of being mind controlled by Soren, which is why she's doing his every bidding. Although she also does mention that she wants to work with him on her own volition, so I'm not really sure if she even knows what's really happening in her own head, and Lord knows I don't. You then get confronted with another character being mind controlled, and this time it's just the Arachne Queen, who is the queen of the enemies we have been battling, and she tries to get us to not kill her and the entire species of Arachne because we're kind of holding their fate in our hands. Now I decided to spare them because I'm going for a good guy playthrough, and I'm also just such a nice guy, which then ended the mission line off when we got another story trophy. I was then unfortunately forced to go back and do a few more assignments before continuing the main story. However, it again led me to more random planets, and I got another exploration trophy from going to 4 random planets, and here is that. And about an hour or so later, I would then get the final exploration trophy from again going to any and all planets with the various assignments I had to do, and once going to 8, this trophy popped, which is the final trophy from traveling to varying planets in the game. And while still doing assignments, I began to really grind after some of those ability or skill trophies, as I tried to mention earlier. But for the most part, they aren't really that hard to get, and quite a few of them can actually be farmed on inanimate objects, which is definitely something. I wouldn't do that method for the most part, however, because that's boring, and yeah, that's just boring as shit. But while I was doing an assignment, which had us battling a ton of pirates actually, space pirates, if you will, I got 2 ability trophies back to back in the same combat section. The first one was from using the throw skill 25 times, and then the dampening skill 25 times. I'm also not sure what dampening does, but throw just throws them, which is usually quite hilarious to see with the old video game ragdolls being masterpieces, as we all know. And a bit later on, while I was in a Husk combat section, I got another 2 ability trophies back to back, which is kind of a trend because I was trying to use characters in good combinations to knock out abilities with 2 at once instead of just 1. But the 2 skills I used 25 times were first the stasis, which freezes the enemies in place, and then lift, which, you guess, yup, it just lifts them up, which is also quite funny to see. And at this point, I was nearing the end of the assignments I needed to do, or could do, so I decided to go and get that Archivist trophy finally. Both because I had most of the races in my codex already acquired, but also just to make sure I didn't forget about it when nearing the ending of the game. And acquiring the remaining races I needed was actually super easy because all of the people giving them were in the same area of the Citadel. So it just took a few dialogue options and chatter to reach the investigation option and acquire them. Once doing so, the trophy popped, and here it is. Now at this point in my playthrough, I've been grinding Mass Effect all day, so I was a bit tired of playing. And before I took a break, I decided to grind out 3 of those skill trophies on inanimate objects. Yes, I know, very boring. But the guy creator mentioned you could do it like this, and I wanted to get them out of the way so I could just play with my preferred run and gun style, not having to worry about stopping to use skills all the time. But the first one I did abuse was just the barrier skill, and this actually can be done at any time because the barrier skill is just a shield for the allies on our team, but once using it 25 times, the droid pops regardless. I then used both the warp and singularity skills on the Citadel rapid transport marker over and over and over. Thankfully, however, doing this does not scare citizens or ruin your reputation, unlike Skyrim probably would have done to us. I imagine if you did this in that universe, a plethora of jail days would be required afterwards. However, again, like usual, once reaching 25 on both skills, the droid pops. So with that done, I basically have all these skill trophies in the game. I am still missing, I think, 2 of them, but I decided to go after the main story and farm them as I played because neither of them can be farmed solo and they require enemies to get. But the game's story led us to Feros, which is another planet that has been completely overrun by enemies, particularly the Geth at first and for the majority of the mission, at least for the first half of it. The Feros storyline has sort of 2 parts, with the first half being all about the Geth and their infestation of the colony on Feros, which requires us to just kind of do the same thing we did in the last main story mission and eradicate them. Also doing some optional assignments in regards to fixing and gathering things for colonists, which I did do because of that completionist trophy. But doing those also got me so many Paragon points from being the nice guy that I reached a 75% Paragon rating, and I got the trophy from achieving ultimate nice guy status. But after that, you hop on the Mako again and ride off quite far away from the colony to go investigate and also find out about the Thorian. Now, Soren has been working to secure the Thorian, and if you're wondering what that is, it's basically this ancient plant-like organism capable of mind control and indoctrination through its spores, and this is also the method of mind control that has been used against quite a few people, including the matriarch so far. But on the way to uncovering that whole mess, I got a skill trophy from AI hacking, which can thankfully be used on the Geth, and here it is when 25 was reached. Anyways, as I said, Soren was using the Thorian, and we also had to completely destroy the node that he uncovered because he indeed brought him back to use. And they are extremely annoying and strong to defeat due to their ability to just keep bringing dead things and alive things to life for battle. Anyways, once we did defeat the Thorian node, it killed the plant, and a girl named Sheila got pooped out of it, who was the main subject the Thorian was using to clone. Upon saving her, it also gave me enough missions and assignments completed for that completionist trophy, which popped right here, and that is a monumental W because that trophy is the most missable in the game, and it's what I've been chasing for about 10 hours now. Sheila also gave John Pork another big boy vision, and it was scary, also loud, and now my ears hurt. But that was basically it for the main missions on Feros, with the story storage trophy popping right afterwards. And before I did begin the ending missions of the game, I then quickly went and did a side mission that has a trophy tied to it called Colonial Savior from completing the Bring Down the Sky mission. And this is a side mission that has us land on an asteroid that is about to crash directly into the planet Terra Nova, specifically targeting the human colony city of Astrius, and it would kill about 4 million people instantly upon contact. But the asteroid itself isn't just hurtling towards the planet on its own. Oh no, a bunch of evil, disgusting alien scum by the name of Batarians were piloting it with massive boosters. And that's the entirety of the mission's plot. We just drove around and eliminated all of the Batarians at the 3 boosters, shutting them down as we went. I also did pit stop to save abuse and farm the remaining 2 skill trophies I needed because both of them could be used on the Batarians and I couldn't wait anymore. I needed my dopamine hit like a middle schooler needs his vape. Oh my god! Horrendous addictions we both have. You then finish up the boosters, leaving you with just having to go to the main facility afterwards to take out their leader, which we also did do. And that also saved the citizens who were working on the asteroid to begin with, popping us a trophy from the mission, and we are now onto the main story quest and the platinum. So the following main quest was the second to last one, and it had us going to Virmire or something like that. I got a little bit confused with the planet names when there was multiple of them occasionally. But on this planet, Soren is conducting more experiments, and he found this super deadly way to mass produce aliens. So we have to stop him as soon as possible, or else he's going to begin to put them out and basically make the world end. I know, it's dramatic. And before you do begin the real mission, however, you have to convince this Lizzo character to calm down, because his species could gain from what Soren is doing. However, it's at the expense of every other species, and he's pretty struck on this, but with max charm you can convince him not to worry about it and stand down from his position, which also triggers a trophy from resolving a quote-unquote impossible situation. Anyways, this mission was super fun and probably one of the best in the game since you go sort of undercover and flank the facility. All the while, our allies are engaging them in combat from the front, but after making your way through the outside of the facility, just battling enemies and turning off their defense systems occasionally, you enter the facility itself, and inside, after more combat and progression, the squad ends up finding another Protheon beacon that is fully functional, and it's what seems to be the reason this facility was built literally around it. This is also the moment when all of the damn beans in the can get spilled and what Soren is really up to and what this game's plot has been hinting at. These beacons hold memories when touched from the Protheons trying to desperately warn us about Reapers, who are sentient AI that have transcended life and are eternal. And these Reapers are the puppet masters of society, the universe, everything. They make life, take life, and play God among civilization for eons upon eons, and they are what wiped out the Protheons 50,000 years earlier. They then let civilization build back to the known peak, which is where we are now. So it's time for another reckoning.
Man, shut your bitch.
And the Reapers have been using Soren as a puppet to fast travel our destruction with his various attempts at mass control, all of which we have thwarted so far, being the reason the Reaper is talking to us right now, and exposing this all because they are probably quite annoyed. But then he leaves as soon as he came, and we are left with a bunch of warriors as you would expect. The most immediate one, however, was still destroying the facility, and we ultimately decided to just blow it up. And I was also at this point not really paying attention to my dialogue choices because I can't miss any more trophies, so I accidentally told one of my allies, being the human dude, to stay behind with the bomb and make sure it goes off as we all escape, and he did do that, also dying in the process, so rest in peace, brother. But the trophy from that mission popped after we successfully destroyed Soren's facility and found out very vital information. With this new info, we then told the council, and they like 45% cared, but not enough to do anything. And we even had to go so far as having Captain Anderson knock out the human ambassador to hack his computer, and then let us take the Normandy to fly to the final planet of the story, that being named Los or Leos or something. I don't know how you say it. Anyways, upon making it there, you literally watch as Soren enters it and locks the entrance behind him. Awesome. So for the beginning of the mission, you have to wander and find this elevator to go down to the service corridor, then flip the door above back open, go back out, and finally enter the facility. The item we were after here, by the way, which Soren was also after, is called the Conduit, and we find out more about what that really is shortly here. But first, you drive the Mako through the facility, eventually reaching this hallway with cryopods of Prothean scientists in them resting in, but you do end up getting stopped by yet again another AI, and this time was actually a helpful one who runs the facility for the Protheons, and he also explains everything to us, and pretty quickly if that. Basically, as I said earlier, the Reapers killed all the Protheons, or at least tried to, except for these ones in hiding. They then eradicated all of life in the universe, planet by planet. All the while, the Protheon scientists here were trying to figure out a way to stop this all. And eventually, they developed a mini core relay, which is like a teleporter of sorts, into the Citadel, because the Citadel is actually just a cover-up for the entrance to dark space, where the Reapers reside in. And if you can sneak into the Citadel and make sure to stop that gap in space-time from opening, you can essentially force the Reapers back into their own area of the universe, at least for the time being. Soren, however, is using the core relay for the exact opposite, and instead sends a full-on attack on the Citadel and begins to try and open the door for the Reapers. We, of course, follow him, and you get a trophy upon entering the core relay into the Citadel. You then have to deal with a ton of enemies on the way to Soren, but once you do make it to him, you naturally have a massive boss fight against him, which was a lot of fun. And as I said, playing on casual makes it very hard to die, and I did not. In fact, Soren became my little bitch. You then see everyone begin to go after the Reaper ship that is trying to bring them all in here. However, Soren was still a sort of hold for them, and he ended up coming back to life for boss fight number 2. Again, I beat him, and this time, thankfully, it did cause Soren to die and vanish for that that matter. Also turning off the Reaper ship shields, and we basically saved the day getting the final story trophy and the platinum trophy on Mass Effect. There was still some more ending story cutscenes, however, which I did watch because this game deserves it. It's absolute cinema. Anyways, I also did choose to save the council members of the Citadel, which was a choice earlier when dealing with Soren, because having them on humanity's side seemed like a smart move in the long run, and in turn they gave the humans a spot on the council, which will still be determined, but John Pork does not f with politics and just walks off into the sunset, ending Mass Effect 1's story. So that was the Mass Effect Platinum Trophy experience. I absolutely love this game, I'm not even gonna lie, I found it so interesting. I think it would have slapped a lot more, even more than it already did if not for the missable trophies, but hey, that made it seem like even more of an accomplishment getting the plat, so I can't really complain. Rating the game out of 10, I'll give it a solid 9, and that's all for today. More videos on the way, and Fortnite can suck my nutsack.